Today I'm going to use the Wargame exclusive conversion sets to build some Deathmarks and Immortals from my leftover bits. And it's coming right up.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, today I'm going to make use of the leftover bits from when I made my Necron Deathmarks and my Necron Immortals, and I'm going to use these Wargame exclusive conversion sets. I was sent these along with the General Grievous miniature, which I've recently converted into a Hexmark Destroyer. Link to those videos in the description below. I've also reviewed quite a few of the miniatures from the Necrocyborg range. Again, link to the review videos in the description below. But today I'm going to be looking at these conversion sets that they recently sent me for Necron Immortals and Necron Deathmarks. So hit the like button and let's do it. Now, all of the miniatures I've had so far in this range have been resin cast. However, these are 3D printed, which really piqued my interest to have a closer look at these miniatures. The models are in one piece, and of course they're designed ready to put the arms that you have left over from when you make your Necron Deathmarks or Necron Immortals. It's one kit, you build them as one particular unit, and then the other arms are left over and usually just in your bits box. But if you buy these, you can use those leftover arms to make some very cool miniatures. Now, I'll admit, I thought this was one box for both of the Deathmarks and the Immortals. However, they are two different conversion kits. I honestly didn't realise until I opened the second box that they sent me. I thought I had a unit of 10, but actually I had 2 units of 5, 2 different units. Of course, once I opened the package, it all made sense because, of course, the Immortals have guns with wires connected to the gun from their back. Now, one key thing with these miniatures, which is very different from the normal Necron range, is that they have cloaks on them. Very different indeed. And I'll be honest, when I saw these miniatures a while ago, I didn't really like them. I thought it looked a bit weird having cloaks on them. Maybe for the Deathmarks, where they may need camouflage, I could sort of get that, but for the Immortals, I wasn't too sure. However, I always say, never judge a miniature until you've built and painted it. And, I'll be honest, now I've done that, I really like the cloaks on these miniatures. Now, you do get bases with these miniatures, but I was thinking, as they've got cloaks on, they're probably wearing those to camouflage themselves. So I thought it would be pretty cool if I had some bases which had terrain on them. And Wargame Exclusive do a Toon World base set, which of course I've used in the past. I've got a couple of boxes. Now, unfortunately, you only get 10 32mm bases in this set. It's like a mixture of bases, which is really cool. It's a good idea. However, most of our miniatures are on 32mm bases. So I've used all of my 32mm bases, and at this moment in time, hopefully, Wargame Exclusive will listen to this particular video and maybe change that. But at this moment in time, you can't buy just a set, just a box of 32mm bases. You can only buy this mixed box, which becomes a bit wasteful when all you really want is a load of 32mm bases. So in the end, I decided just to use the standard bases which the miniatures come with. So back to the miniatures, I had a closer look at the sculpts from the two different sets. The Immortal ones have a little hole, sort of joining point at the back, where you can obviously join the wire into it. And each piece has some numbers on there, so you know which one goes with which body. Now, even though these are 3D printed miniatures, I decided to wash them just to make sure that they were clean, ready for painting. So I just put them into some warm soapy water, let them soak. I used a toothbrush and I scrubbed them and I let them dry. And then I got to work on these pieces. I got my hobby knife and I just cleaned up all of the little pieces that were left over from the 3D print. Now, most of this is actually on the bottom of the miniature. There's little sort of sticky out bit which I just had to sort of cut off and just clean up. So there wasn't too much work to be done, but you did need to do some work. Once that was done, then I got my Deathmarks and my Immortal arms and guns out, and of course I cleaned all of the mould lines off of those as well. Okay, so everything was running smooth up until this point. Then I came across a bit of an issue. Now, what I will say here is, if you love the hobby and you love model making, then this isn't going to be a stumbling block for you. You're actually going to enjoy it. However, if you're unaware of this, like I was at the time, you may get very frustrated until you find out the truth. So let me explain. I started to get all of my bits together and working out which arms and guns go with which bodies. Obviously, I thought I would just take the arm and the gun, fit it into the body, find one that fits, and then put that aside and then move on to the next one, find another one that fits, and it would be easy, right? No. I fiddled and I fiddled and couldn't make them fit. I got frustrated and a little bit more frustrated and then a bit annoyed, and then they almost went into the bin, and then I looked at the Wargame exclusive website and found this on there. Before I move on to that, just a little note that they do use an 8K ultra high definition 3D printer, and I have to say the actual 3D printing is amazing. You cannot tell it's 3D printed from the sculpts at all. There is a sort of etching in the material of the cloak, but that's there on purpose to make it look like cloth rather than a 3D print etching. Attention, dear friends, we noticed that not all the pairs of hands from plastic sets correctly fit with the body. When we did the miniatures assembly test, everything coincided well, but we see that choosing the right hands is not an easy task. It's probably the matter of good luck. So our advice is not to torture yourself and not to play your patience as well, but to simply remove with a knife the part of the cloak that doesn't allow to attach the weapon to the body. This is okay because the fabric of the cloak should be pressed by the weapon in this place. Enjoy the process of assembling. Hobbies should bring fun. And that's what they've written on their website. So with that in mind, I went back to the miniatures. I tried to get the arms and the gun to match the body as best I could, but knowing that I'm going to probably have to cut away at the body to make them fit. And that's what I did. I started with the Deathmarks models and had to get a knife and just gently cut out a little gap for the gun to sit in to make the arms fit into the arm sockets. It wasn't difficult, and of course the gun is going to cover up any of the detail anyway. If I did cut away a little bit too much, then all I had to do was just put a little bit of green stuff in there just to hide the cut. Actually, I think I used a bit of green stuff in there anyway, just to help everything sort of glued together, because it was obviously quite fiddly. So yeah, I had the arms and the guns and a little bit of green stuff on the cutout, and I just super glued them all into place. Now, the Immortals were slightly different because they had this wire going from the back into the gun, and that was really difficult to actually match them up. Actually, when I was first looking at these, it looked almost impossible until I worked out, of course, that you had to cut out the body. Then I worked out how I was going to do it. So I started by super gluing the wire to the back of the miniature, and then I glued the arms and the gun into position, working out where that wire could go to join the gun. And my idea was to heat up the wire with a hairdryer and then bend it into position and let it cool in that position before I glued it. That was the plan. Now there was only one miniature where I couldn't get that wire to actually fit because a piece of the cloak was in the way. So actually what I had to do was heat up the cloak, and then once it was nice and hot I then bent it with a tool so that it wrapped around the leg, and I just held it into position until the material had cooled down, and then it just stayed in the new position. Then I was able to fit the arm and the wire into place. Not an easy task, but it is doable as long as you have some patience and a hairdryer. Now I didn't glue these miniatures to the bases, I just used a bit of blue tack because I thought for painting purposes it would be a lot easier to paint them not glued on to the bases, obviously. However, yeah, I really like these miniatures after I managed to get them built. Even though at the beginning of the video I said I wasn't a fan of the cloaks on these miniatures, as I worked with the miniatures, the cloaks grew on me, and as I painted them they grew on me even more, and now I really like them. I think they're very cool and very different as well. These conversion sets could be a bit of a challenge for a beginner, but as you can see they're definitely doable. So if you fancy a go, or if you've got a lot of experience and enjoy working on miniatures, then yeah, why not check them out. Wargame exclusive, of course, linked in the description below. Check out their website, they've got lots of cool Necro Cyborg stuff, as well as lots of other factions in 40k. As I said, I've painted these miniatures. I've got a painting tutorial coming up soon, so make sure you stay tuned for that. In the meantime, here are some other videos on Necron conversions that you may enjoy.